Sound healing is the use of sound to bring calm, ease to the body. There are so many ways to lean into sound as a healing modality. Sound is also sound waves in the body to disrupt cancerous cells.
Yes.
Right? And there's so much research now on the efficacy of sound in the body as a healing modality. And the way that it comes through my altar, so to speak, is using the voice.
Peace and riches blessings. I am Michael B. Beckwith, the host of Take Back Your Mind. Peace and riches blessings, and welcome to Take Back Your Mind. I am your host, Michael B. Beckwith, the founder of the Agape International Spiritual Center. And for those of you who've been tuning in for a while, you know what that title means. Take back your mind and open your heart. Where our minds at times have been hypnotized by worst case scenario, limited perception of reality by the media. There's so many ways that the mind has been hijacked, where individuals are living from a very limited point of view and then experiencing that own point of view. It's very unliberating. So, Take Back Your Mind is about us having conversations with individuals that are in the modality of healing, upliftment, inspiration, individuals that are on this planet doing the work to expand the heart and to open the mind, but not that anything can just fall in the mind, but that which is uplifting, healing, inspiring, life-transforming. And so today, guess who I have? Gina Breedlove. She's a grief doula. If you've never heard about that, what that means, we're going to break that down today. A sound healer, a vocalist, composer, author, an oracle for grace. She began her walk with spirit and sound when she was just 5 years old, toning and humming into her body to move grief. We're going to talk about that. She has toured the world as a vocalist for our beloved Harry Belafonte, Ronnie Jordan, Greg Harris, to name a few. She's been on the stage here at Agape International Spiritual Center. She originated the role of Sarabi, is that how you say it? Sarabi, in the Broadway production of The Lion King, has appeared in 2 Spike Lee joints, Shyrock, Living the Dream, I saw both of them. As an actor and resident sound healer, she tours the world with her music, bringing the medicine of grace to every city that she visits. Her book, The Vibration of Grace, Sound Healing Rituals for Liberation, is available now to purchase. I have a wonderful endorsement in there. Welcome to Take Back Your Mind.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
You got that bright, beautiful smile, beautiful colors. Energy is great.
Thank you.
Hey.
Hi.
5 years old? Tell us about that.
Oh.
When this
5 years old was my first conscious memory of sounding into my body to create what I know now is calm. And but my family tells me that I had been sounding and humming since I made my appearance on the scene. But at 5, I remember so clearly because my mother left us. My mother moved out of the house, and of course, it's a much longer story. But there were 5 of us, 5 siblings. I'm the middle child. 4 siblings. I'm the middle. That's 5. And I remember hearing what I call now is a voice of spirit, a voice of grace, guiding me to sing. I heard, "Sing, Gina, hum." I happened to have helped my mom downstairs with her things and watched her drive away. And I stood on that doorstep for hours. I mean, what's time when you're 5?
Right.
But we had a rule in my house. You come upstairs when the street lights come on.
Right.
I
remember that rule.
Yes. And so I just stood there. And I felt the feelings were too big for my body. And And I heard that. I heard sing and hum, so I started to hum and sing. And I sang my way off the stoop and up the stairs to our second floor apartment. And I sang my way to my bedroom, and I climbed into bed, and I sang, and I cried, and I fell asleep. Yeah.
And that's kind of the beginning of being a doula to yourself.
Absolutely.
With the sound healing.
Absolutely.
So you basically had 5 siblings, and your dad was still there?
My dad was still there, and there were 5 of us all together. And even at 5, I remember that I was always trying to soothe and hold and make the energy better. I mean, this is all, of course, language that I have now.
Now, right.
But as a baby girl, there was so much strife and pain and fear in our home. The constancy of all kinds of insecurity, food insecurity, housing insecurity, my mom and dad, and the volatile nature of their relationship. And so, that was my position in the home, to sing and to soothe and to even Reverend Michael, to even lay hands, you know, now that I look back on it. And yes, I started to do that on my own body, to hum, to hold myself. And it helped me to move through these feelings that were too big for my tiny body and for things I had no language for. Right. Yeah.
So do you think you brought that with you, or was it triggered by the calamity in the home, or a combo?
An amazing question that I've never considered. And I think that it was revealed because of what was happening. I think both end. I think it was something that was intrinsic to my knowing and my body and my being, and brought forward because of what was happening. Also, the risk that happens to the body, to any body, when your mom is not around, when there's no one checking for you, and what happens to our children when they're not cared for. And so, humming and toning and singing through trauma, through sexual trauma, through through fear and just not being cared for in the ways that all children should be cared for, that we desire to be cared for.
Absolutely.
Saved my life.
Yes.
It did. It kept my spirit intact. I felt like I was holding on to and protecting something that so no matter what was happening to my body or situational, because I couldn't control my world.
Right. You're 5, 6, 7.
Exactly. I felt held in ways that I'm still searching for language for.
So here you are humming, just intrinsically this music is coming out, this vibration. So there must have been also like a kind of a vibrational match to other dimensions.
Yes.
Like the angelic presence, or you call grace, or, maybe, I don't know if you knew it consciously or whether you had that kind of sight at that time.
I did.
You did, okay.
And I actually, looking back, it almost felt common. It felt commonplace. It wasn't something that I could give a lot of thought to, but I saw things and felt things and heard spirit and sound in everything all the time. I would wake up in the middle of the night, I remember, and go to the window and hear a humming, and a hum, and I would hum along and tune along with it. And also, it's because of...
You can say anything here.
I can say anything. Thank you. Thank you.
We're way out.
Thank you for that permission. Because of the neglect that was happening, for all of these reasons, my work is never about vilifying our parents or those who held us or didn't hold us. To me, that takes the focus off of the work we do with ourselves.
Right.
There are rooms for that, but in my room, we focus on you and the younger parts of you. And so there was no one telling me that you don't hear that or you're crazy. So there was no one checking what I was seeing and feeling and experiencing. So I just thought that everybody did.
Right.
And this is just life.
That's kind of a somewhat common theme for people who have grown into being a dimension of the healing modalities. They had that perception, that wider perception, and if no one took that away from them, it got integrated into your calling, so to speak.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So now we're talking about sound healing, right?
Yes.
So break that down for folks as to how do you define that, and how can people not like yourself, but ease into that practice?
Oh,
Because you were 5, but many people are watching are probably not 5.
Right. Yes. Well, there are fortunately so many points of entry for that question. Sound healing is the use of sound to bring calm, ease to the body, to lower the blood pressure, to help you to rest, to sleep. I use sound to help folk to grieve, to find grief in the body and pull it forward, and then to create like systems of care based on the grief and where you've been. Sound healing is the didgeridoo and bells and the gong and the drum, right? And your favorite song on the radio that you crank up and sing along to. There are so many ways to lean into sound as a healing modality. Sound is also sound waves in the body to disrupt cancerous cells.
Yes.
Right? And there's so much research now on the efficacy of sound in the body as a healing modality. And the way that it comes through my altar, so to speak, is using the voice, leaning into the sound of your own voice or the voice of a guide or a teacher to help you to locate yourself. Find yourself in what I think of as these trapped rooms that can happen when harm happens.
Yes.
And it keeps happening, like, for instance, my story and share about being on the doorstep. I learned through sound and through my work with sound to return to that doorstep and get my 5-year-old self, and bring her home, bring her to my life, bring her to the present moment.
So she's not split off.
She's not split off. She's not experiencing her mama leaving her 1,000 more times.
Right.
So many more than 1,000. And I need that 5-year-old baby. I need her brilliance and her joy and her belief in God, and so in that way, it's integrating parts of yourself. It's quite related inside of soul retrieval, rituals of soul retrieval, and there are many ways to do that as well. And the way it comes through my body and my teachings is you go back, your voice, beckoning to that part of yourself. Often, sometimes you need a guide, and sometimes you can do the work on your own body. Yeah.
You're bringing up a lot here, because if the little girl, and we're speaking to everyone here, is not embraced back, then she can act out and show up in parts of your life least expected.
That's right.
Like just kind of disrupt everything.
Because
Because she's cut off and thinks she has her own individual identity.
Yes.
When in fact, she's to be a part of your full. For you to be full, you have to embrace her.
That's right.
Yeah.
And all of those parts, all of those places where harm has happened that causes that split, as you say. And I know before I got that baby girl back, and there were several stuck places, it was the younger harmed parts of me that were running my life.
Yeah.
And so in that work of integrating parts of yourself, when you stay in that work, parenting those parts of yourself and letting her know that, you don't have a bank account, and you don't drive.
Right.
And you don't have partners. You don't choose partners. And, all of those things.
You can't make those decisions.
You can't make those decisions. You're 5.
Right.
And you get to be 5. Like appropriate boundaries for those parts of myself. And that comes through practice and rigor and ritual.
Practice, rigor, and ritual.
Yes, sir. Yes.
But at the same time, as she's integrated, and this speaks for everyone, then you get to have that childlike again in you.
I do.
It's like you get to be a child again.
I do.
Not necessarily childish,
yes,
but you get to have that buoyancy, big imagination, all things are possible again.
And wonder.
Yeah.
I get to have that wonder. And that baby, those younger parts of me had a complete faith and belief in like the sun will rise and that spirit is real and God is real and Jesus is a friend of mine.
You can sing that with passion.
Yes, and those parts of me. And so liberating myself from the harm has allowed me access, right?
Yes.
Yeah, to those treasured parts of myself. And, because the harm was, how do you measure harm? But I had severely horrific things, like, I stay in practice. I have to.
Yeah.
I have to stay in practice, and I love it. It's the offering for embodiment.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so I do. And now I am graced and grateful to guide other folk in that practice.
So if a person comes to see you,
yes.
whether it's Zoom or in person, I imagine.
Yes.
What's a typical session? What do you walk them through?
Well,
a person comes in
yes.
and their mother just passed over.
Yes. Yes. Yes, that's a particular kind of grief, as we know.
Yeah.
Well, in my work, I am not allowed to know story.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting because that's kind of the work of our spiritual practitioners. Mm-hmm. We don't get involved in the story.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Continue.
And probably, I imagine, for the same reason, so that I don't insert myself inside of what's happening with you.
Yeah.
You know how the ego is a tricky beast, can be. And so if I don't know the story, then I can't decide what you need.
Right.
And I can avail myself and make myself a channel. For the energetic of grace to come through. And so a typical session will be an introduction. I ask you to say your name, and maybe tell me something that you feel you want me to know. And then I invite folk into a meditation, to leaning into again and again to what you can hear, the sound of my voice, a breath practice, and then locating yourself, like we journey around the body to the extent of the capacity of the person in front of me.
Right.
And then I begin to tone. I intone into the body. And by the time we have grounded and anchored ourselves in the intention of care and healing and holding, and of course we pray our way in and always open the space and ask for permission, and honoring all of those rules I feel in a space before you begin to do that kind of work, the work of spirit. I tone, and I'm guided in my toning.
This is an intuition.
It is.
Intuitive gift.
Yes.
And you have a precise tones for different things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And so generally it does stay with a major scale or the C major scale, and the notes up and down in toning until I land into a place that feels like, oh, this is your tone. This is the tone.
How do you know when that hits?
I feel it in my being.
You just feel it. You can just feel it. Bam.
Yeah.
Here it is. And then you'll stay with that.
Yes.
And what is the individual doing at that point? Just listening?
Listening, breathing, receiving. I love to work with folk when they're lying down. So if you're in person, you will lay on a massage table. When I work in groups, we have a space that's large enough for everyone to rest on cushions and have blankets. And
so you do groups and individuals?
Yes, I do. I do. And then you tone and you tone and you tone, and through the toning, which is for me a kind of divination, I receive information about what may be needed. Often, and also this thing about story, what folk think is happening may be just one aspect of what's happening. The grief of a mama passing will bring up all of these old needs generally, and I say old as in long time needs.
Right.
And it can, it will bring up so many things. And we get confused about what we might need at that moment.
So when you do a group, are you tuning into the group soul of the group, or how do you?
That's a gorgeous way to put it, because we know that everyone presence creates an energetic, right? And so it's the group energy, the group, the moment of what's happening in the world will dictate how folk are feeling as well. And it doesn't even have to do with awareness, because we're also porous. We can feel it.
Right.
And so when folk gather, there is a group need that can be served in the moment by the sound. I talk to folk about their shaping around grief. It's like a day-long experience, and about and how in your family of origin, how grief may have been met, and if you're encouraged to grieve, if you are allowed to grieve, all of those questions will guide us to how things are practiced, how we practice, not grieving, and then talking about how do we shift that, how do we normalize grieving, right? And then we know it's a big, powerful energy,
yes,
right? And so how do we source that, allow it to flow through, and then what can be created from it?
Yeah, that's interesting. So the grief becomes an opening
to
other possibilities within us.
Yes.
It's it's not just a releasing of a dam of information
Right.
or emotion, which it could be, but it's also like an opportunity.
It's such an opportunity.
Yeah.
I feel like it's an opportunity for dominion.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Dominion?
Dominion.
Mm-hmm.
Like how much time we spend swallowing, submerging our feelings, particularly, especially grief.
Yeah.
And like that is an incredible amount of energy.
Yeah.
And if we collectively can be in the ritual and the practice of grief letting, of allowing, we get ourselves back. And that thing that has been driving me is no longer driving me. It doesn't have power.
Right.
You know?
Because of awareness and release.
That's right. That's right.
So this book, you have years
Yes.
of service in this modality.
Yes.
And how are you able to put it in this book? What's been incorporated in this? When people get this,
it is a guide, a primer, grieving 101, right? To rituals of soul retrieval, to rituals of pulling, which is a ritual of evicting energy from the body that doesn't belong to you. But in this book, step by step guidance on how to wail, on finding your soul tones, what I think of as your soul tones, that tone. Folk talk about the energy that you bring into a room. I'm thinking they're hearing your tone. You know what I mean? They hear your sound.
Right.
So how to connect with your sound, and to do that, to lean into it, like if it's do, C, C, C. That's something that I will, for me, it's re. Right, it's D. It's the major scale, and for me, that sweet spot is do, re, 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 and I'll hold myself in that tone, and it will help. It will help me when I feel stuck, because I still get stuck. It will help me.
You're human?
Yes. Yes, indeed, all day. And so in this book is that kind of guidance to a deeper relationship with yourself, and in those places where grief is locked, Yeah.
Beautiful. You use the word grace a lot.
Yes, I do.
Tell me, just speak on that and its meaning and what you mean.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Grace, I could discern the voice of grace by the clarity of instruction, and by these rituals that I had no reference point for, and I used to think that grace was mine. And the older I am, and the ways in which I've been allowed to share this energy, I feel like grace is for everyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you said grace is a being.
Is a being.
So
yes.
Grace. Would you say, if we use the word God,
yes,
would you say it's an extension of God?
I would.
Yeah, so
I would.
This is a dimension of this great presence.
Yes.
And a part of this dimension, which is love and peace and grace.
Yes. Yes.
And so,
indeed.
So, would you how would you differentiate, if you would, between grace and like peace, or grace and love? What? I know I love the word grace.
I love the word grace.
Yeah. I may have my own definition of it, but I want to hear what.
I would distinguish.
Yeah.
I would, because I think that grace and peace and love and sovereignty hold different positions.
Yeah.
And silence and rigor. Like I think of these words. I think of these action words as beings. I do, and Grace's position.
It's almost Egyptian.
Is it?
Well, in some of the Kemetic teachings, they talk about these qualities, but they also personify them as beings.
I will do my research, because I did not know that. This is something I learned through walking with Grace.
Okay.
And so this knowing came from that tutelage.
Oh, wow.
And so, I think of grace, because I can feel grace when I'm working just come through. And what happens for me is this expansion of my capacity and of
like that.
love, you know, like I feel love too, like grace makes the space for love to come through.
Yeah.
But yes, I do. If the vision or the site is like the overlapping roots, you know, overlapping roots, part of the same tree.
Right.
And so grace and love and peace and presence, and they're all together.
Yeah. No, I like that.
Yeah.
So I always say that you can't earn grace. It's always present, but you have to be available to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I feel that exactly the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you work with a lot of people,
I do.
you know, and somebody's going to want to know this in terms of how do you, this might be the wrong language, but how do you stay protected
Yes.
working with so many various kinds of people and different kind of issues?
That is the perfect language.
Okay.
And thank you. And it's part of my responsibility to guide folk who wish, and teach folk who do energy work, who do the love work in the world, how to stay well.
Yeah.
And because we are porous beings. And so it's taken a lot of years and a lot of error, like, you know, on my part, like being too exhausted or not being able to get out of bed, and getting sick.
So you're picking up their stuff, basically.
Yeah, you are. You're absorbing the energy that you are helping folk to release. And so part of how I learned to do it, to do the work and stay well in my body, was to learn boundaries. And one of them is, I am not the healing.
That's good.
You know, I learned not to confuse my presence for what was happening. Right? That was one thing. And I was taught from Grace, like I heard it all of the time, you know, pause, lean back into your own body. Trust the person in front of you. Stop talking. You've said enough. Like allow the energy and the lesson and the teaching to settle. You know, and don't get wedded to there being an immediate response. Right?
So it's full participation, but not an attachment to an outcome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so that's part of how I have learned to stay well. And part of not dealing with story, I don't carry it with me. The work is done, it's done. When we close the space, we've closed the space.
And you probably forget about it.
I actually do. In fact, people tell me, oh, you know that thing you said.
But you may even forget about their story.
Oh, I always do.
I know.
I have to.
I know.
Yeah.
I remember working with this woman one time, and I can't tell you what we worked on.
Right.
But when I saw her in the streets, she looked at me and she says, oh, when I was saying, I said, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I remember you coming.
Yes.
I remember us having a session.
Yes.
But I don't remember your story.
That's right.
Yeah. And she said, you remember? I said, I sincerely, I do not. Now, if you come back to me,
right,
and I enter to that space again, I will remember.
Yes.
But I'm not walking down the street remembering your story.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
People don't understand how that works.
You can't.
Yeah.
You couldn't possibly.
Right.
You know, I'm going to buy milk. When I am doing my work, I can't go and sing, give me milk. You know, that's just like, you know, I'm not working right now.
Right.
And it is work.
Right.
It's work. It's
Yeah.
my vocation, and I adore it. And, you know, when it's done, it's done.
It's done.
And I love that. I feel like that is also a way to protect ourselves, you know,
Yeah.
and to honor the wisdom of someone else's journey and their body, and trust that they got it, you know, and they have the capacity.
Right.
You know?
It reminded me of, I remember a number of years ago, I went to see a woman at the Kaiser Hospital up on Sunset Boulevard. She was suffering from cancer. And we did work. And I can remember as I was leaving the ward, I didn't take the elevator. I went down the stairs, and I felt all of this grief, and I felt like I wanted to end my life.
Oh.
This is how I learned to be protected.
Yes.
Just years ago.
Yes.
And I was standing on Sunset Boulevard, and I saw a bus coming down the street, and I said, you know, I could throw myself in front of this bus, and if I timed it just, and I thought, whose thought is this?
Right.
I don't want to commit suicide.
Right.
So I became aware I had picked up all this energy from the cancer ward
Yes.
of people who were ready to leave. And then that made me train myself to not pick up the energy of the people I was working with.
Yes.
And I learned, instead of, I have no interest in picking up vibrations from people. I learned to impute. I learned to radiate. only. Just radiate love, radiate whatever is necessary. But I'm not interested.
That's right.
You know.
Yeah.
So I was curious to how you deal with that.
Yes, I see you. I'm basking in that radiating right now. Actually, thank you. And that's it. I mean, I do medicine baths.
Yeah.
I carry all kinds of things with me.
Yeah.
I'm always spraying, spritzing, praying,
Yeah.
grounding. I go out and let the wind, you know, the gift of the wind blowing over the body. I say thank you. And if I have a person's story, then I have to do a deeper release. Mm-hmm. But mostly
that's the same thing we teach our practitioners.
I love that.
That if they're still carrying the story or wondering what's going to happen,
that's right.
They haven't finished their work yet.
They've
got to go back into meditation and actually have an awareness that it's done.
That's right.
That whatever you were working on is complete.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, you know, I have 2 grandbabies.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter, I am fully invested in being alive and being in this body.
I like that. I'm fully invested in being alive.
I want to stay in this body, and I'm going to keep my body well.
Yeah.
And do the work I love to do.
Yeah, it's almost a part of our job.
It's a part of the job.
To be happy.
Yes.
And to be healthy.
Yes.
You know.
Yes, it's an energy, and it's vital.
Yeah. Now, did you coin this term, grief doula?
I did.
Yeah, because when I saw it, I said, I think this is original.
It is. I mean, I do predict that next year there'll be a lot of them.
I'm sure there will.
Which I hope so. Like, that's awesome.
I'm sure there will.
Yes, because we need it.
Yeah.
But I did, actually. Well, Grace and I did.
Yeah, because, I mean, the world is going through so much right now.
Yes, sir.
You have Gaza. You have the Congo.
Yes, sir.
Sudan.
Yes, sir.
You have, and other places.
In other places.
And the world is grieving, and a lot of the world doesn't even know that they're grieving.
Right.
You know, they don't even know what they're picking up.
Right.
You know, it's in intense emotions. So I think the work that you're doing is for this time. It's for every time.
Yes. Yes.
But it's very intense right now because we have social media that's broadcasting everything about Israel, Gaza, Sudan, Congo, Ukraine, Russia, different parts of the continent that are being raped, Africa, you know, that everybody knows.
Yes.
Years ago, it was hidden.
Yes.
You know, that it was so censored. And we still live under censorship. I'm not naive.
Yes.
But there's a lot that leaks now, and people are being bombarded with this. So do you find that people are coming, and it's not just personal and individual, but it's also picking up a collective saturation of grieving that's happening on the planet?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Collective grief, global grief, yes, is quite heavy and intense and pervasive. It's everywhere, and so there's a lot of doom, a lot of doom scrolling. You know.
You say doom?
Doom.
Doom scrolling.
Yes, and I feel like it's part of one of my jobs, one of my gigs, is to remind folk of the practice of simultaneity, of witnessing and seeing what's happening while also holding the highest. Of, you know, of what it is, you know, that you desire.
So what is a specific technique?
You have to grieve. You can't, it's almost impossible to hold a generative thought when you are saturated with grief. And so what happens is we start living in clip, you know, and that's what this is, you know, this gesture. We do it in all kinds of ways. We can't finish a book, or we can't finish a movie, or we can't finish a conversation. And because our minds are so full, and we're running from the feeling.
Yes.
You know, we're full, our bodies are full, we're running from the feeling. And nothing is working anymore. You know, the ways in which we used to self-soothe. Grieving is what is needed. And so
not binge watching Netflix, not alcohol, not overeating.
Definitely not. Although sometimes, like the movie This Is Us, which we touched on at the show, it provided an opportunity for people to wail weekly.
Yes. Oh, that was so
And
great.
it was awesome for folk because, you know, the body wants to move this energy. And
that's the high level
of
technology you just described, though.
Right.
That kind of movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was it was just humanizing. It
Yeah.
helped us to, even if it's through someone else's story, seemingly when you start to grieve, the body is relieved. You know, and like, you know, you see that beautiful commercial of the baby crawling toward its mother and you start to bawl, you know, and that's an opportunity. The body is saturated and you don't know why, but you just go with it. And so just learning how to grieve and move the grief, because it feels so weighty and it blocks the sun, allows us to then begin to be in these practice of seeing and witnessing while not being overcome by what we're, like holding the highest.
Yeah.
When I need to lay down and wail, I do it.
You do it.
I do it.
Yeah.
I give my body, I give my spirit, I cry, I wail, I sound.
Yes.
I'll take some time with that, and then I'll gather myself, and I'll have a good meal, and I'll play with my grandchildren, and I'll remember hope and life and love and what's possible. And hold on.
The real.
I
know as an adult, I cry easily now. And I oftentimes cry right before I'm about to present on stage. It's just it's just like I'll just be sitting in meditation and it just kind of empties.
Yes, it does.
And then I'm ready to go speak.
That's right.
It doesn't happen every Sunday, but it happens a lot of Sundays.
Yeah.
And I don't evoke it. I'm aware, and I just release and go up and then wipe my face and go on upstairs and do it. So I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And it feels so
freeing.
It
does. It does. It does.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Remind people the name of your book again.
The Vibration of Grace, Sound Healing Rituals for Liberation.
So you teach people that they can grieve without being incapacitated.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Because some people are afraid
Sure.
that once they open up the dam,
Yes.
that they won't be able to function.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, you know, if grief is queuing up, that you might not need a few days to lay out. And then I hear...
That's why they have bereavement.
That's right.
Times.
That's right. That's right. And I do hear from folk, well, I don't have time for that. You got to make time. You have to. And so, and also in my book, like there's some guidance around, well, here's a 30-minute ritual. Here's a, you know, like for those of us who are caregivers, or here's the space in between the space, the shower, the bath. Here's something you can do. Take this walk, take this 15-minute walk, go put your hands on a tree, feel your feet on the earth. We have to make time. We have to make time.
You reminded me, you know who Malada Musome was?
I love.
Yeah, he was a good friend.
And his wife.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
Former
wife.
Sabanfu.
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember him
Sis
talking
Sabanfu.
about when they would have like what we might call a memorial service, or, you know, celebration of someone's life.
Yes.
That a part of that practice is they would start grieving for everything.
Yes.
Not just the person who just passed.
That's right.
But they would allow that energy to activate anything that they never grieved about.
And how powerful
So that
is
person
that?
became like a catalyst
That's
for them to release stuff in childhood, adult, teenage, you know. So the whole group would be grieving and then go into celebration of that person's life.
Yes.
So like a big community clearing.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I want to bring back kitchen table grief circles.
Wait a minute. Kitchen table grief service.
Well, I mean, the mothers of my church in Apalachicola, Florida, where my father brought us for a year to try to get it together, gather his life and get support, they wouldn't have called it a grief circle, but every Thursday night without fail, I'd be in choir practice and the mothers would be in a room wailing, singing, wailing. And of course I would sneak out because I was that girl and hide in the back. I was 9 years old. They'd be laying hands and singing in the back of someone's neck and heart. And the women would just move it.
Wow. Yeah.
Move it.
That's African spirituality.
It is African
That's
spirituality.
what that is.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
It is.
I was speaking in Atlanta recently, and they were talking about the Pentecostal movement, and I said, well, that's African spirituality.
That's what it is.
They got moved into Pentecostalism with an interesting theology.
That's right.
But the energy itself,
that's right,
that releasing and the opening up to the spirit realm and cleansing, that's straight out of the continent.
It is. And they were doing it for everyone.
Right.
They were
for
doing
everyone.
it. The mothers were doing it for the whole community.
Right.
Like, I know that now. I could see it now. And then there'd be like fried fish and 7-Up cake. Like, you know, people would be laughing.
7-Up cake.
Yeah. We would find our way to celebrating, to dancing, to Yes.
Right.
To feeling unencumbered and lighter and able.
Yeah, so it didn't get coagulated and become a disease later.
That's a great language, coagulate. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
So you, I think in here you talk about how this is beneficial for people who are deaf.
Yes. Well, I'm working on those rituals, on vibrational and frequency, like the tapping, the touching. I have had the grace of working with folk who cannot hear and don't speak, and sounding, and they feel the energy of the voice in the body. And I haven't perfected those yet. I mean, what's perfecting? I have not. I'm not enough to teach and tell, but I am working on that.
But you can intuitively do it.
You can intuitively do it,
and I'm talking about you personally.
Oh yes, I can.
Yeah.
And I do, and I ask folk, really tailor everything to your access needs. Tailor this offering. Like if I say stand and you need to lay. If I ask you to sound and you need to hum or not say anything and just lean into what you can hear, like all of that. Like where are you this day? Meet it where you are. Come as you are.
Yeah.
If you have trouble hearing or speaking, lean into it anyway.
Yeah. Well, would you do some sounding? Something?
I would love to.
I mean, think about whatever's going on in the world, whatever, and just allow people to feel whatever you want to offer at this moment.
Well, and I thank you for the invitation. And I would invite folk into a posture of quiet as they were able to soften or close your eyes and lean into what you can hear. And of course, that is the sound of my voice. But wherever you are on your end of things, we don't resist the sounds of the moment. They become a part of what we're doing. But we focus on the sound of my voice at this moment. And focus and breathing and maybe notice where you are. Maybe notice your back body for a moment. And are you somewhere where you can lean back and be supported? Right? But leaning into the sound of my voice and inhaling through your nose and exhaling through your mouth. Inhaling through your nose and exhaling through your mouth. And listen. And take that in, please, and my intention for your ease, for your care, for a slower breath, for a sigh. Yes.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I have to come back to words.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about, maybe a little mundane after all we've talked about, but your role in The Lion King. It's not mundane because it's a very powerful story.
Yes.
But you created that role.
I did.
Tell me, how did that come into being? How could you create a role? You auditioned and created a role.
Well,
the role didn't exist?
No, Sarabi, in the animated version, right? Sarabi is the mama, and I just, Rev, I've been so graced in my work. I didn't have an agent, I was hoofing it in New York City, and I heard about this, play, and they were auditioning. They auditioned everyone, the producers of the play. Disney produced it. And I auditioned like 5 times, and I just kept coming, and then they gave me the sides, the text for this character that they wanted to flesh out as the queen. And I remember I pulled something out of my bag. I had a scarf, and I made an ascot, and I pulled myself up to my full height, and I got the job, and I it was just a magical, really beautiful. The cast was the incredible, like the dancers, the actors, the singers, everyone. The beauty of the costuming, of the puppetry, and just the brilliance of every single person who laid hands and brought themselves to that offering. And so I got to be the queen. I got to be Queen Sarabi 8 shows a week. And
8 shows a week.
8 shows
It's only
a
7
week.
days.
It's only
so
7
you
days.
did 2 in one day.
Yes. And it was beautiful and wonderful, and a high point of the work, my work as an actor and as a singer. Yeah.
Fantastic. What year was that?
Oh, my goodness. 1997, we premiered on Broadway.
I probably saw you.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
I saw The Lion King back then.
I did it for years, and then I went on to record and tour and do my own work, and but it has shaped and informed what I know is possible. The gorgeousness of it and how folk responded to it.
Right.
It was
People are still responding.
People are still yes. It is a gift that keeps giving.
Right.
Indeed.
So what does your life look like right now?
Touring.
Just, touring and healing, touring and singing, touring and acting, all of the above?
Right now I'm focusing just on the vibration of grace, and I'm doing grief doula work. I'm working with folk who are in transition, companies, mostly organizations that are shifting
Break
how
that
they
down.
do their
What do you
work.
mean?
I'm being called in to work with folk that are transitioning the way they do work.
What they do.
And chiefly these days the way philanthropy is done, which there is a real interest, which I'm grateful for, and being more in touch with what people need, in touch with the immediacy of the need, and instead of like mountains of paperwork or tell me why you need this support, just there's an interest in getting support to people, and in an urgent way, because we are in an urgent moment. Yeah. And to shift and change structures of any kind, it takes time, and folk need support. Right. And folk don't realize how attached they become to systems, and the grief that is elicited from shifting how you do all of how you do and what you do. Right. And so I'm being called in to come and work with folk in groups. Let's talk about shaping around grief, and let's just talk about like what's possible when we learn how to grieve and turn toward this new moment. And so I'm doing that. I have a company.
Stop there for a second.
Yes.
Because I was going to say if I'm hearing you correctly. So you're assisting people to open their hearts.
I am.
And to not be encumbered by the structures they've been working under.
That's right.
That may prevent them from doing what their intention is, because they may be bogged down in paperwork rather than, let me meet this person or this organization or these people. They have a need. How can I best get it to them, rather than allowing the paperwork to be what's most important?
Thank you for breaking that down. Yes.
You're moving people out of bureaucracy.
Oh, yes,
which hinders, like the government sometimes is more important in the paperwork. Yes. A bureaucrat sometimes is more important in the paperwork than actually doing what they're paid to do. Yes. So the work never the good never gets to the person, or gets there slowly.
We get caught in the systems, right? Instead of, and the person in front of us is languishing. Right. And so there is some push from folk like, no, we need to act now, right, and be present now to this need of the moment. So yes, indeed.
And then the paperwork can be adjusted to fit the new delivery model.
Exactly.
That's good work.
Which is great. It's a great metaphor, isn't it? Too.
Yeah, that's necessary work. Yeah. And you were about to say something else.
Oh, and I am a co-founder of a beautiful company that does this incredible equity work and diversity work and healing work in the world. It's called Rethink, and so I went to Brazil with Rethink and did anti-racist, anti-blackness work in Brazil, and it was stunning, beautiful work with like the most open-hearted circle of folk that I've been graced to be a part of, and so I'm doing that. I'm busy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm moving around a lot.
You have great activities.
I have great activities, and they're all so wonderful.
And do you sing during these events too?
I
do. You
well,
hum?
I hum and I sound. Like
uh-huh.
I would say, if we may circle back, that if you want to begin a sound healing practice, like it's a beautiful point of entry to hum. Like to hum, to begin to hum. It doesn't have to be musical. Like to hum into your to yourself as you're falling asleep or doing your grocery shopping or wherever you are moving in the world, where you can lean into the sound of your own voice and humming. Humming will cut a narrative, a fear-filled narrative. It will. Like try it. Lean into humming for a moment, and then you can like remember yourself, get yourself back, and replace it with a song or a psalm or something that is life-giving.
I love it. Two things. Any final things you want to say to people? You can also, obviously, you can tell them GinaBreedlove.com. Any other way that they can connect with you?
That is the way. That's the best way.
Gina.
Gina.
Breedlove.com. It's a heaven of a name.
Thank you.
A graceful name. And every time she has sung at Agape, oh my God, just cuts through everything. It's amazing.
Thank you.
As we're about to close out, give us another tonal quality for the podcast community, something that would nourish them.
Oh, it'd be my grace.
Wow. The vibrancy of grace.
The vibrancy of grace.
Gina Breedlove. GinaBreedlove.com. You felt it. You heard it. You sensed it. Now find some level of entering into what she has just talked to us about today. It's okay to grieve. It's not just okay. It's necessary. She's a grief doula. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Great. Peace and blessings, everyone. You've been tuning in to Take Back Your Mind, Open Your Heart with today, my guest, Gina Breedlove. Have a beautiful day. Peace and blessings. This is an extremely important part of Take Back Your Mind podcast. And that is a brief practice of the art and science of meditation. It's brief because it's generally between 4 and 7 minutes to encourage you to actually have a practice that you do every day. Now, the mind may be saying, every day? Every day? Nah, don't take it like that. Just do it every day, but let every day be day one. Let every day just be day one. And don't think about it every day. Like, I got to do this every day. Just let it be day one. Do you brush your teeth every day? Do you take a shower or a bath or clean your body temple every day? Do you put some kind of nutrition in your body every day? Do you do some kind of pure hydration with good water every day? You probably do. But you probably don't say to yourself, oh, I got to drink water every day. I got to brush my teeth every day. I got to clean my body temple every day. No. It's just incorporated in your day. Begin to think about meditation like that. Just something that's incorporated. You take an outer shower. Maybe you can consider meditation an inner shower, where you're cleaning up the obscurations, the false beliefs, the misperceptions, the resentments, the animosities, things that have been coagulated in your mind. You're cleaning it up so that you can begin to see clearly. I've taught over the years that so many people suffer from what is called spiritual astigmatism. They cannot see reality. Most people can't see reality. They can only see their thoughts about reality and then experience those thoughts. In meditation, you're making yourself a candidate for right seeing. Leads to right being, so that awareness and self-expression become intertwined. That's called right action. Let's be still for a few moments. I invite you to turn within in this moment. Extract your attention from the external world, conditions and circumstances, and begin to feel. That you are one with life right now. You're one with love and beauty and joy, intelligence. Those qualities are not afar off. They're right where you are, but might be covered up by your perception of past experience or your perception of a projection of something to be anxious about in the future. But I want you to be present right now with your intention to wake up and your sacred breath, which is happening presently. Intend to wake up from the matrix of separation. Pay attention to your breathing. It's happening presently. If the mind drifts, that's okay. You're not going to go into metaphysical hell because the mind drifts. Just bring your attention back to your breath and your intention to wake up. You could possibly drift into inner conversations and fantasies. Could be embraced by emotions that are emerging, sensations of the body, sounds in your room or sounds on the street that your mind may call noise. We don't call it noise. We just say there's sounds. You can be aware of all of that without being caught up in it. I call it being aware of distractions without being distracted by them. Let's be still for a moment. The mind has drifted. Bring the mind back. You're aware of your intention and the vibration of that intention, the feeling tone of that intention, and the breath, which is happening presently. Another half a moment. Let us rise in gratitude and thanksgiving. giving a vibrational signal that we are open and receptive to more good that we can possibly imagine. Put a smile on your face, become grateful and appreciative, and open your eyes and feel yourself appreciating your own life, the life that you did not create, but the life that has emerged from the eternal. Peace and blessings. Have a beautiful, beautiful life. I appreciate your letters and emails that you've been sending in, but also the notes you're sending on the Instagram and on the website, thanking me for Take Back Your Mind. And I thank you for your support. As I've said before, if you want to support Take Back Your Mind, support the sponsors. The main sponsor is the Agape International Spiritual Center, agapelive.com. We have a Facebook presentation, an Instagram presentation, a YouTube presentation, and a website presentation. You can donate to the sponsor at agapelive.com. It's one way that you can donate. It supports the podcast. Second sponsor is Nutrarise.com. You go to Nutrarise.com, those 3 lines up at the top, you touch that line, and you'll get Adaptozen. Adaptozen are my products. The Super Green Superfood Greens and the vitamin D3 K2. Both extremely good for your health, your nutrition. You support the sponsors, you're supporting the podcast. Have a beautiful, and as I like to say, a bright day, luminous day, because you are a luminous being. Peace and blessings. Your time is very valuable, so I want to thank you for lending us your ear and participating in Taking Back Your Mind. If you want to submit a question for the question of the week, please submit it to podcast@michaelbeckwith.com. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, please submit a review and let us know your thoughts. Stay on top of current episodes by subscribing to the podcast so that you'll receive alerts and not miss one single episode. And feel free to share this podcast with all of your friends and family. And until we meet again, take back your mind, and you will take back your life. Peace and blessings.